If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
And we are back. I'm Chris Evans, the CEO of Survival Dispatch and co-founder of Dead Drop Intel. We've got a pretty big panel tonight. We're going to have people coming and going, speaking with regards to the assassination of Charlie Kirk today. But as you can see on the sidebar right now, my good friend Khalid Muhammad from Command 11 in Pakistan is with us. Directly below him, my very good friend Randy Nance, combat wounded Green Beret. Below him, Jeff N.D., 007, our in-house CIA operative. Below him, another CIA guy, because we can never have enough CIA guys. Ryan Gaho, good to see you, Ryan. And he, by the way, he was only CIA for a few years. Then he moved on to other security-related stuff. Below him, the one and only legend, Mike Glover, another Green Beret. And below him, my friend S2. So we have some links that we're going to show, but I'm going to put Mike up front and center first to give his take on things. Then Khalid will give his take, and we'll start going through the post, the videos, everything at that time. Take it away, Mike.
Yeah, just being literal with it, it's a turning point for the country. I mean, today, Charlie Kirk, who's been leading a campaign and educating the youth across the country, was murdered in front of the entire country. The video has been heavily disseminated. And I think when he was shot, he didn't stand a chance. And that was essentially right after the fact, and including on some live streams, disseminated into everybody's living room or on people's cell phones, wherever they were. And that's a tragic thing that just took place. The big question is, who did it? What was their motivation? We never pay attention to these things, by the way. It's an issue today. Tomorrow, it will be a non-issue. MSNBC came out early on and stated they thought their theory was, which speaks to the national issue here, their theory was it was a radical person shooting in celebration. It must have been. And it speaks to a larger national cultural issue that we're facing that is literally costing people their lives. I mean, he's a father of 2 young children, has a beautiful family, has never incited violence, has never advocated for people hitting the streets and burning it down, unlike congressmen and women from the radical left who have literally said that on live television with no recourse, no consequence. And he was just assassinated and murdered. It's today, September 10th. You guys know that. Tomorrow, could be another 9/11. I look at this and I wonder what does this play into the big picture? And I think a lot of countrymen and women like myself are sick of it. I don't want to see this. And every news organization should be playing that live streamed with the warning, but it needs to be demonstrated, especially after this Ukrainian woman was killed. It's like, where have we gotten in our place in history where all the things that we work so hard to keep overseas, away from our families, away from our communities, is infiltrated? And maybe it's always been here, but now we're seeing it in real time.
I appreciate that, Mike. So I'm going to pivot to Khalid and get your high-level overview. I just want to say my good friend Dr. Jason Dean is joined at the bottom left-hand side. And Doc, because we've got a packed panel, people are going to be popping in and out. When you have something you want to add, do me a favor, just throw a finger up, and that way I'll know to bring you into the spotlight. So take it away, Khalid.
Yeah, I'm going to echo a lot of what Mike said. This this is America pushed to the bridge, to the breaking point. You, no matter what kind of excuse you want to make for what happened today, the Democrats have weaponized words. They have weaponized people. They have weaponized chemicals. They have weaponized gender. What happened to Charlie today was unthinkable. I mean, this should never happen. Just because you disagree with someone on their point of view doesn't mean you execute them. That's what happens in fascist states. That's what happens in countries where there is no debate, no discussion. I can't. I was on the phone with you, Chris, when this whole thing was going on, and we went through everything, just trying to figure out how and why. I'm shocked at the media. I'm shocked at the American media. You now see the actual left and right in the American media. MSNBC statements just literally blew us away. That you actually tried to pan this off on Charlie Kirk's own people celebrating, and they fired and they hit Charlie. That's just outrageous. And then to turn around right after that statement and abuse Charlie for his point of view. It's like Mike said, Charlie Kirk never put anyone on the streets. He never incited violence. He was a guiding light for the youth of the United States. And to have him taken this way, it's God only knows where the next direction is going to be, because this could be a trigger event to a civil war. Left and right has been fighting each other verbally everywhere. You'll see a video. The U.S. House of Representatives, right after Charlie Kirk was shot, wanted to stop for a moment of prayer, and you literally hear the Democrats saying no. And I don't understand what has happened to the fabric of the United States, where you can't even stop for a moment of prayer when someone is shot. But that's high level take. That's where I'm going to leave it right now. As we go on, I'll give you more.
All right, thanks, Cleet. So we're going to bring up that first video you mentioned, and I'm going to have to get everybody back on stage here just because we didn't have time to set this up. We're in a bit of a rush here today. So this is the first video that Cleet was speaking of. Breaking: Charlie Kirk shot from a building about 200 yards from where he was speaking. Per Utah Valley University, Charlie was immediately taken away by a security team, and a suspect is in custody per Utah Valley University. That's old information, by the way. Kirk was brought to the hospital and his condition is unknown. And obviously we know what the end result is. A 45-second video.
I want to bring in now, this is actually, let's start with this new statement from Utah Valley University. We had a speaker, Charlie Kirk, invited by a student group, Turning Point USA, speaking on campus today at noon. At about 12:20, shots were fired from a building about 200 yards from the speaker. Now, this is new. According to the best of our knowledge, the individual was hit and was taken away immediately by his security personnel. That individual, of course, is Charlie Kirk. Campus is closed for the rest of the day, and our campus police have a suspect in custody. So that is new information. 200 from a building, 200 yards from the shooter is the newest information from the university. And obviously, I want to bring in now.
So I'll go ahead and stop it there. I want to just go to Dr. Jason Dean quickly, because I know he's super tight on time. And Doc, I'd love to get your overall thoughts, and thank you for sparing a few moments to join us.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, just a couple of things on it. So I did not, man, after being a doctor, you see a lot of stuff, and also having kids changes your mindset too. So I remember watching a lot of obviously rough movies when I was younger, but I started with the train situation last week, where I just didn't watch it. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to see a brutal murder. Wasn't worth. I was actually shocked it was all over X. It was kind of disturbing me, the fact that I just keep scrolling really fast to get by it. So when today happened, I just saw, obviously he was shot. So I went online real quick to see what was actually going on, because it wasn't being covered right away. And then someone sent me the link to the up close, and I wasn't warned about it. So I just watched it. And at first I thought it was AI, because I do not have the gun experience and background you guys do from a standpoint of calibers and what's being shot. But I can tell you, when someone's hit like that and the blood sprays that quickly, I was actually shocked, because I was actually texting back and forth with you, Chris, about Like they're saying that he's at a hospital and he's under care. He's got a pulse. I'm like, that hit is not survivable. He's done within seconds. There's no way they got to him like that. They hit the jugular, the carotid artery, everything. I mean, that's over with. It's kind of like hitting the aorta. Like he's probably gone before he hits the ground. So I was shocked by even X saying like, oh my gosh, he's being, Glenn Beck even, I think, got caught up in it too. And Chris, you were saying like, there's no way he's gone. I'm like, he has to be gone. There's no way he survives that. And I wasn't his demographic, so I was not like following him constantly. I'd catch a clip here and there, but I will tell you this. Before I left the office tonight, we have a new doctor coming in, and she's younger and homeschooled, conservative family. And I didn't know if she was following it all or not. I said, hey, before you get on your phone tonight, just so you know, something happened today. And I didn't know her connection to it at all. I was just letting her know, don't jump on your phone right away because it's going to be kind of messy if you get on there. And I told her Charlie Kirk was killed. She immediately started bawling her eyes out, like crumbling to the point where as I was leaving, one of our other associates kind of had to console her because she just had this visceral reaction. And she's in her mid-20s. Which brings me up to my last point, and I'll give it back to you guys because you guys have far more insight on this than I do. But many years ago, in the heat of everything, about 2022, 2023, I went to a Turning Point USA event in Arizona, and I'd never been to one before. I wasn't there for Charlie Kirk or Turning Point. It was more of there was a media thing going on that they wanted me out there for. And I stayed at a hotel right nearby, and I was stunned because I had not seen what Turning Point USA was doing before. I had not seen the full Charlie Kirk effect. And I go downstairs that evening, and there are kids everywhere. I mean, we're talking from, 13, 15, 16 years old up to college students and some adults. They had taken over the entire hotel, obviously not in a negative way. They were talking, they were chatting, flags, patriotic colors all over the place. I remember calling my wife the next day and I said, this is unbelievable. And she's like, what's going on? I go, literally kids have taken over this entire city of Phoenix, Arizona, and in a positive way. They're out there, they're being good. They're holding doors for people. Like literally teenagers and young adults have taken over Phoenix, Arizona in a positive, patriotic way. And my big takeaway from what Charlie had been doing, again, I didn't follow his stuff all the time. And then the doctor we had tonight and her reaction to it. Obviously this will be picked up by somebody else, but what he did to basically start educating these children and these kids, these young people, to what America really is, family, God, etc. First, I saw it firsthand. It was stunning. Just absolutely unreal. And I tell my wife all the time, the public education system, the college system, etc., is so messy, and most people don't realize how bad it is yet. That was changing because of him starting to plant that seed. And I'll tell you, this feels like a step down from literally a presidential assassination. I mean, this feels JFK-ish. And it's not necessarily because of, I think, Charlie Kirk. It's the impact that he had on people. It wasn't just about Charlie. It was a movement that he was creating that then he was empowering children, teenagers, young adults to carry forward. So just the shocker over here. So I just wanted to kind of add my 2 cents in and go back to you guys because I think you have a lot more insight. But and I don't think it's going to get easier as we go. I think it's going to get rougher, unfortunately. And just prayers out to everybody, his family. It's insane. Just keep going with the strong words, guys.
All right. Thanks, Doc. I appreciate your time very much.
Appreciate you guys.
Mike, if you don't mind, if you just address the comments that Dr. Jason made, and then I'm just looking at the sidebar. I'll probably move on to I'll go S2 and Ryan, Jeff, and Randy in order down the side. So
yeah, I think Charlie Kirk did a really good job at balancing the playing field. Our democracy is set in this idea that we have the ability, with freedom of choices and liberties and our Constitution, that we don't get to send our kids to institutions that are using propaganda to manipulate their minds. And unfortunately, based on the deliberate infiltration of these radicals into schools, it was their plan from the onset in academia and Hollywood to infiltrate the minds of young people. Charlie Kirk knew this, Turning Point knew this, and they went out and they did the hard work. The difference is a lot of people talk about these issues. Charlie Kirk went out there in a pop-up tent across the entire country and actually did it. And it's very problematic when we have a society that right now, a lot of radical left lunatics are secretly or openly celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. Yep. And that's the scary component to me about how this evolves, because I agree with Khalid, it will evolve. This is a literal turning point in our country's history. And despite him not being a president or not having celebrity status across the country, he was very, very specifically educating the youth of America, especially the conservative youth of America, and talking about values and ethics. And that's problematic because every single person, I looked at the imagery because some of the photographs that were taken right before the shooting were released, and you see all these impressionable young minds looking at their hero, a mentor, communicating good intent, never vilifying anybody, having open debates and conversations. And all of those guys are looking at their hero get gunned down right in front of their eyes. How does that change the culture of America? It is a defining point in history. And I think it's part of a larger systemic cancer in this country. Yeah. And how this evolves, we can get into, but it's not going to be good. This is not like the tipping point and then things improve and we just hit rock bottom. This is the tipping point of crap rolling downhill. And unfortunately, this is likely only going to get worse.
Yeah, very, very well said, Mike. And by the way, our good friend Keith Graves from Christian Warrior Training, pardon me, a little tongue-tied, a little tired, working extra hours these days, just jumped into the studio. But S2, I'm going to get your thoughts, and we'll bring Keith on stage as well. There we go.
So I'll go on to what Dr. Jason said earlier. I wasn't an ardent follower of Charlie Kirk. Occasionally, he was talking about things that caught my attention that made me want to listen more. And every time, most of the time, the things that I was catch is when he was eviscerating one of these kids that had been indoctrinated. And it always left me wondering, did he get through to that kid? Was there something that he said to that kid and the way he said it that got through to that kid? And if he saved one of those kids from that, then he served his purpose. And I know he's probably saved many kids from the indoctrination that's been going on. My biggest concern is what I see going on right now out in the public spaces, where we have people on, we have every single Democrat that's out there saying we condemn or political violence has no place in America. Well, I think I've cracked that code of what they mean by that. They've spent so much time in the last 4 or 5 years telling us that what is good is evil, boys can be girls, girls can be boys, and so forth and so on. Everything they say is the opposite of what they say.
Yeah.
They're glorifying this shooting by saying that. And I think it's despicable. The other piece of what I'm seeing out there is we have people on the right out there that are literally calling for civil war. They have to be shut down. They have to be put down like dogs, things of that nature. And the message that I have to send to America is, don't wish for something that you've never been in the middle of, because if you've never had that blood on your hands, you will never be the same again. And it's over.
Yeah, that's very well said, S2. Thank you. Appreciate that. Ryan, so for our audience who didn't catch the episode previously that Ryan was on, Ryan Gehu, he was a former CIA agent, Department of State, professional security, still does security to this day. He's traveled around the world protecting important people, and he knows a lot about this type of scenario because he's worked in very similar environments as to what happened today. Go ahead, Brian.
Let me just take a step back and kind of look at the bigger picture real quick, if I may. So last night I was sitting at home with my wife and I was scrolling on my phone, looking at X, and the video popped up of the Ukrainian girl sitting on the subway train, being slain. Everybody was looking. Actually, a lot of people weren't even looking. They were on their phones. She's sitting there in disbelief that she's going to die. The poor girl is bleeding out, scared out of her mind. She slumps over into a pool of blood. People get up and they walk away. And I'm thinking to myself, has our society reached an all-time low? Like, are we at the point of no return? And it infuriated me. I actually woke up this morning and I wrote an article on it. Where the hell have our morals gone? Like, our morals are completely gone in this country. And just when you think it can't get any worse, this afternoon, Charlie Kirk is slain by who knows how many people were involved. And it's gotten worse. And I honestly think we are at the point of no return right now. And I don't know where this goes from here.
Well, Ryan, I've got a question for you while you're front and center. So over on the YouTube channel, we're broadcasting into 10 different locations tonight. A person by the name of Duke Cleve, Cleve, got caught in the moderation on YouTube saying cry harder. So as you're sitting here saying that the country's divided, I think the thing that's bothers me as much as, well, not quite as much as Charlie being assassinated, but close, is the assholes running their mouth like this guy here. I mean, we're hurtling towards a civil war.
We are indeed. And that scares the living shit out of me because we do not want that to happen. That happened a long time ago and it almost destroyed our country. And it took us a long time to recover from that. And when people say they want a civil war, they've never been to war before. They've never been to a war zone and know what it's like. And people, when they say that kind of stupid shit, it just infuriates me.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I got to look after this guy and get him out of there. But apologies, Jeff, for taking so long to get to. I was going to make the reference to JFK, but I'm not going to do it. So just want to hear what you've got to say. Keith is back again, by the way. There you go. Now we've got.
Yeah, you can make the JFK analogy because I'm the only one on the panel who was alive.
I'm just not in a funny ha-ha mood.
No, I'll own it. But I was also alive when Martin Luther King was killed and when RFK was killed, and I think this echoes more along the lines of Martin Luther King, who was, in a lot of ways, Charlie Kirk was preaching common sense. He was preaching, love each other. But more importantly, he was preaching talk to each other. He says, if as long as you're talking, you're not fighting. And he says, you got to be able to have a conversation with people you don't agree with on every issue. And what struck me is, right after it happened, you had the MSNBCs and the CNNs where, oh, he was polarizing. He was a propagandist. He was and it's like they're trying to rationalize shooting him by trying to make him into something he really wasn't. And I know a lot of these guys, well, I'm not a big Charlie Kirk aficionado. I have seen probably hundreds of his videos on campuses. And when they get on a roll, I have a hard time turning them off. You can ask my wife, because he is just so logical and so sane. And he's like, you can, like on the transition, hey, you're an adult, do whatever you want. Just don't do it to kids. And that's a 99.1% issue. I think most people would agree with him on that. But they have spent so much time now demonizing this poor guy. And he was a genuinely nice person. He believed in God. He was a very genuine person who loved thy neighbor. And then they kill him. But what I think it's really showing is with the mainstream media, they're exposing themselves. When their reaction to this, you know who they are. We knew it anyway. But man, there's no doubt now. And I think anybody who cheers his death or tries to make any excuse for the guy who killed him, they're dead to me. I mean, if I wouldn't piss on their head if their hair was on fire. I'm done with them.
I share that sentiment. So, Mike, I just want to come back to you just on this inflection point, because I think that's really what you were getting at. This is an inflection point. We've turned the corner now, and it's unlikely that we go backwards. So how do we go forwards now that we're past that corner with this massive chasm between us and them?
We don't. I mean, there's no turning back, and this isn't, think about escalation of force. Escalation of force is, this happens, what's going to happen in response to this is the natural question. Is there going to be retaliation? For sure there will be retaliation in some form. I mean, when you have members of Congress, when they identify that through Trump likely that Charlie Kirk is deceased, they try to have a moment of silence, and the Democrats protest. This is no longer run along ideological, political lines, which is innocent. I mean, political lines. When you see MSNBC, when you see even CNN with their response to this and calling him a MAGA this, a MAGA that, again, isolating a part of our country, demonizing them, and then radicalizing the voices of the left to make it seem the world is falling apart under Trump. What do you think is going to happen when you have a mental health decline in this country, a lot of vulnerable people, a lot of young individuals, which was Charlie Kirk's mission, to get into their heads and say, hey, the world isn't falling. We're fine. You don't have to abort your babies. You don't have to go down this road and feel like a victim. You can actually stand up, use all the gifts that you were given being born in America, and achieve something. That was his messaging. And for that to be turned around by left-wing radicals into something that radicalizes an individual, I think personally this person, despite the likelihood that he is just a loser nobody, right? If this person is a loser nobody, he was motivated by the radical left to do training, to do reconnaissance, to get on his belly, shoot flat, to zero his gun. All of this deliberate, planned effort to wind up killing Charlie today. And how many other people like him exist? I mean, you could say this kickstarted in Butler, Pennsylvania. And then it's like, how many more do we have to bring forward and say, hey, case in point? And then how many of the people are on the right as radicals? I mean, we talked about it on the last show. It was like 9 of the last 10 mass shootings in this country that have been covered on a massive scale were trans shooters that had mental health issues. So again, we are not paying attention to what's going on in plain sight. And when you stack this with all the things that we've talked about, a jihadist movement that never stopped, that is continuing to build full steam ahead, and now the cartels where they just arrested 600 Sinaloa cartel members and the biggest drug and cartel bust in decades, then you have the perfect recipe for a man-made disaster. And everybody feels it in the country. I think everybody on the panel feels it. And breaking that out and then going, hey, what can we do about it is where our expertise is needed, because so many people have anxiety. I mean, there's anxiety. I can't tell you how many, a dozen plus messages of people going, what do we do now? What do we do next? And I'm just like, stand by, watch the live, get some expertise from these people. And you have to be prepared for it because it's not going away. And again, the analogy I used when Trump was going to get in for the second term was, it's like a person confronting bullies on the playground for the first time. For so long, we've bred bullies on the playground because we've done nothing about it. And then Trump gets in, and sure, he's made mistakes. I'm a libertarian. I'm an independent. He's made mistakes. But for the first time, he's confronting these bullies on the playground. The problem is there's too many. And so the ramification is we are going to have consequences. We're going to have fights. There are going to be second, third order effects that are going to impact everybody in this country. And if we're not prepared for that, we're going to be in a bad place. Again, I think personally, this is just the beginning. This is not the end of things getting better. This is the beginning of things getting worse.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you. So I'm going to go to this next video, and I think I got to get a couple people up on stage here. Or do we have it? No, we just got a Keith. So I'm just going to play this one video, then I'm coming to Randy and Keith. Apologies for taking so long to get to you guys, but this is the first video that I saw, and this is obviously a still of Charlie falling over. So
Counting, we're not counting gang. Counting, we're not counting gang violence.
Oh my God. Go, run. Oh.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. We've got some other videos. I don't know if we can play them or not, but we're going to take a swing at it. Who knows? Maybe we'll get kicked off like we did last week and the week before, thanks to Cleed. So, Randy, give us your thoughts again. Apologies for taking half an hour to get to.
Well, there's a lot going on. First, I just want to address a comment I saw earlier, just real quick. It was at 6:08. This person, Victory Garden. I don't remember the comment that was mentioned, so I don't know if he's referring to Trump or Charlie Kirk, but either way, they're wrong. Victory Garden says he incites violence by covering for an act of genocide. Pal, you just ended up on the wrong channel. You need to shut the fuck up and leave. Regardless, so now I'll go, everybody's had great comments on here, and we're all over the target. But here's what I'm going to suggest, and I've stopped saying, I've also stopped saying our leaders, right? I call them now our elected officials because these people are not leaders. They're not leaders of any magnitude, of any sort at all, in my opinion. And we don't even have left and right anymore, right? That's done and over with. It's gone. The way I identify people now are those who love this country and want to preserve it for the way it is, and the other side who hates this country and is trying to fundamentally change it and turn it into something we don't even recognize.
Yep.
That's what we're looking at today. So when you see MSNBC and CNN and BBC and all those, I'm going to suggest right now, first, they need to lose all their FCC licenses. They have all those licenses revoked, and they need to be permanently banned and removed off the airways for what they've done just on this one event. But we look at the last week, we had 2 white women killed by black men, and they're still not reporting on either one of those stories. And we all saw Charlie Kirk get killed right there on national TV, basically, because it's all over the internet. And you watch even that close-up still shot you saw there. I'm with the doc. I think he expired right there. When his arms locked out and his head went back, Charlie was no longer there. And so our problem is, they didn't even get the guy on the roof. Now, we've heard maybe they've captured him now, but first, how did he get up there? How is he able to take a shot? And we've seen videos now where the crowd saw him up there, but no one else did until he actually fired that shot. And, we have to look at, as Mike was just saying so very well and eloquently, the problem is this is a turning point and we're not going back. Now, I've been hearing it for several years, and I'm sure Mike has too. Today, it's definitely gotten a lot louder, and I think it will from here, from the side that loves this country. Now they're ready to fight, right? Now you brought the fight out in them after today and everything that's been going on over the last week that the press won't cover. So we do have a problem, and I've told people since probably 2017 or 2018 is the first time I started people saying, well, maybe we just need to have a civil war. Well, I say the same thing, Mike, as I said, you need to shut up. You have no idea what you're talking about, and you don't know what's going to happen when that goes off. It's just like our original, our first Civil War, because right now it's still the first one. Everybody thought it was going to be over in a matter of a month, 30 days tops. The war would be over, done. And actually, the first engagement, a lot of people don't realize this, but all kind of the aristocrats, the wealthy folks, came out to watch the first battle. And then were so horrified when they saw what happened because, watching people kill each other is not as cool as everybody thinks it is because they've watched it on TV. When you actually see real people getting killed, there is a psychological effect. And so, as we know, that war drug on for 5 years. Trust me, the blood that just spilled today, all you people asking for it, certainly on the side that hates this country, you might have just got what you asked for. And you're stupid for asking for it because you have no idea if this actually kicks off the way it might. You take a look around. Everybody you know will be dead in a matter of months. That is the truth. And so we need to be very careful in moving forward. You know, I don't agree with all this stuff that they're saying. I think it's time for some accountability. We still haven't seen it this year on some of the things that have gone down over the last 4 years. Well, we're at that point now. If we don't see some real accountability real soon and including all these people that think they can get on social media, whether you're a politician or you're a journalist or you're just a nobody out there running your mouth and saying things that are inflammatory, it's time to hold those people accountable too, because that and the media either not covering what's going on or just putting out bold-faced lies. That's all they do. They either don't cover something or they just lie about it. That we have to put a handle on, because that has helped lead us to here. Because the last 15 years, all we've heard is everybody supporting Trump are Nazis and need to be dealt with. And now, you know, this shouldn't shock us, because we heard them say, well, he should have been a better shot in Butler, right? When you say that kind of things, there needs to be some kind of accountability, because that has helped stirring the pot. And that's what leads us to here. And trust me, folks, you don't want this.
Randy and I have known each other for the better part of 10 years, and I can tell you straight up, he's very level-headed, pragmatic. It takes a lot to get him fired up. So just take that for whatever it's worth. Here's my good friend Keith Graves, just got back from, is it Londonistan now or something like that?
Oh, man, let me tell you, everything you're seeing in the news about London and England is completely true. I felt more nervous being in London than I do walking around San Francisco.
So for the record, Keith is from Christian Warrior training, but he was a 29-year law enforcement officer in the Bay Area, SWAT team leader, spent 4 years training agencies around the country, actually around the world, from federal level on down to PD. And I'm actually dying to hear your take to dissect what happened here today from your perspective. And I think maybe Keith froze up on us. He said he's having internet issues. And I think he's froze up. So
yeah, it looks like he's frozen.
Yeah. So I'll pivot to you for a minute here, Khalid, until he gets his internet back up and running. But go ahead and add your thoughts to what everybody else has just put out there.
Look, I remember Ronald Reagan as president of the United States saying, you know, America is a shining city on a hill. It's got the values, it has the morals that every country in the world wants, because America has established itself as being that glorious that everybody wants to be like the Americans. Over the past 20, 30, 40 years, we have seen America lose its values, and they have been systematically stripped away. And I talked about this in the last program, where first you went after the men and you emasculated the men, and you took their power away. You took the head of the household away from them. And slowly you started building on, you made it okay for gay to appear on TV and to appear in the movies. And then you went, okay, well, they accepted that one. Let's try trans. Let's try gay marriage. Let's try this. And you slowly built away, and you turned America from that shining city on the hill into the rubble heap it is today, where you have got, like I said before, you have gotten everybody weaponized against everyone else. The right for so long has stayed quiet. The good American has stayed quiet for so long because they didn't want to see war in their country. And today you forced everyone to that war. We've talked a lot about trigger events, that a trigger event will come along and it will push this country to a point where it's no return after that. And I really think today was your trigger event, because when you take your entire youth who idolized Charlie Kirk and you murder their idol on TV, you have literally just radicalized half of your population. And they're going to want something in return for that. They're going to want an answer for that. whether they demand accountability from the quote unquote government of the United States, whether they demand accountability from the leaders of their communities, or whether they demand accountability themselves, there is going to be accountability. And the question becomes, will it be verbal accountability? Will it be legal accountability? Or will it be violent accountability? And that's my fear right now, is that pushing America further towards violence right now. Charlie Kirk's death today was the 46th school shooting this year alone. And you have to think about that your schools have become targets, your kids have already become radicalized. Where do you want this to go? I mean, do you really want the Civil War? Randy's is absolutely right. If you've never seen a person die in front of you, you have no idea the mental impact. You have no idea the psychological impact of that. And once it starts, you cannot stop it. Then it becomes a different level of normal. And no matter what you try and do, you can't get back to that shining city on the hill. And we've got to figure out a way to get America back there. We just have to find a way to get America back there.
I appreciate that, Khalid. And I see Keith got his connection back up and running. So as I was saying, I'll try to be really brief. 29-year law enforcement officer, Bay Area, SWAT team leader, drug and gang interdictions, subject matter expert, retired about 5 years ago, spent the following 4 years training law enforcement agencies around the world, feds on down here in America. He's an expert at this kind of stuff. He runs Christian Warrior training. And what I was saying, Keith, is I want to hear you dissect what happened today from the perspective of someone with your experience.
So I just got done writing an article about this, about what we can learn from what happened today. And the biggest thing is like his security. I've been watching him forever. I've been watching his videos, and just like Jeff has. And one of the things I notice is I can see his security there. And I know there's security because you can see them, the way they're acting and the way they're interacting. It's like any other dignitary protection detail. They look like they know what they're doing, but we don't have the resources that the Secret Service has, which they still screwed up anyways. We don't have these resources to clear these buildings. And like one of the things that you would need to do is you would need a red team and do an advance before every time you do an appearance for Charlie. And I was worried this was going to happen to him. In fact, I told my wife, I think somebody's going to shoot him, and it's going to be pretty easy because you can see his team is just with him. And in fact, he came to appear in Idaho a couple of years ago, and I was contacted saying, "Hey, can you help provide security?" And I thought to myself, like, man, like you're calling me, like I can do it, but like we're doing he has ad hoc security. Like he should have dedicated security, not let's just call up a bunch of hitters that we know that live in the area. Right. And when you look at the size of the crowd that he had, there's just too many threats to cover to protect him. And where he was up on that roof, I mean, anybody that do an advance would look and go, "Oh, we need to place somebody on that roof," just like Butler, Pennsylvania. Yeah, I would, I have done advanced work like that for prior presidents that have come to my city before. And I have been that guy that's occupied a space to make sure a bad guy doesn't come there. Because if they do come there, they got to get in a firefight with you to go shoot whoever you're doing the event with. And by the time you get done with your firefight, well, they've moved him far away by now. And Charlie, I just don't think has those resources to go put people up. And I mean, like the University of, Mike, what university? It was in your area. What was the name of the university?
University of Utah, out of Orem, Utah.
I saw law enforcement marching this guy away, and I looked at the guys who were marching him away. I had no confidence in these guys. And I can tell you right now, I stopped training law enforcement back in October because I have lost faith in the people they're bringing on. And then the people leading these organizations are, I keep it family friendly, and I want to continue to maintain being a Christian, but I have no faith in law enforcement leadership. And in fact, you can see when they were leading the suspect away, they were moving them through a crowd that's yelling at them, and they're ready to rip them apart. Like anybody would know, I'm going to put this guy down, do crowd control, get a marked unit up there, throw him in the car, and drive him away. But they're marching them through the crowd. I mean, like, that just shows how screwed up they are, right? And one of them made the comment as they were marching them away, this might not be the guy. Oh, like, that's going to calm everybody down? Dude, come on. And they look like, what they looked like was they looked like guys that had retired already and were on their second pension and double dipping. That's what it looked like. And if, I don't know if they're university cops or if they're Orem cops, but a lot of universities have their own PDs. And you don't get the greatest cops at those places. And I know all the university cops are going to be upset with me, but that's where you go to start off, or that's where you go to retire. That's not where you make a career, right? And those guys wouldn't be smart enough to go, we got Charlie Kirk. Like, I'm a SWAT team leader. I'm a sniper team leader. I legit would go, oh, Charlie Kirk is coming. Okay, let's go do an advance. And I would stand there and go, all right, I would get a hold of him and say, what's your security team look like? Who's going to be there? What's their qualifications? Let's interact with them and talk to them. And then I would sit where Charlie's going to be, and I would look out and go, yep, I need people on this roof, and this roof. Not as like counter snipers, but to deny access to anybody that would want to come shoot them. I don't think I saw that with that university. They were like, we're just going to do crowd control. It's just Charlie, they're just worried about somebody getting angry. I wrote an art. We had the shooting of the kids at the Catholic school. And in there, I talked about, I've been talking about for a year now, our biggest problem is going to be lone wolf shooters, that they're being radicalized by the left. They're being told it's okay. They're celebrating that kid that murdered Catholic children. And they're saying that more people need to kill Christians. The active shooters, hey, you need to go after the Christians and leave everybody else alone. Well, the crazy people hear that and they become emboldened by that, and they listen to that message. We got places like the John Brown Gun Club that are training these people. We have people with military experience that have experience in the GWAT that are off training these guys in the John Brown Gun Club. And they know that these guys are lunatics, and they're pushing them forward. I'm deeply concerned about what's happening. And I can tell you right now, there's some major failures on the police department's side that it'll come out at some point.
I appreciate that, Keith. I just want to get to Ryan here for a minute because he's pressed for time. I just want to get Ryan's final thoughts on where we are in the conversation.
So something I'll piggyback on what you just mentioned, Keith. So it's not just in the private security world as well. It's in the government as well. We lack resources. Everybody thinks that we're the federal government. We can move heaven and earth when we have to, and that's not the case. For example, one of the last details I did when I was in diplomatic security was, I won't mention who the protectee was, but he was legitimately on the Iranian hit list. And I could not get the proper resources from local police to help staff this detail. I literally... This went on. I was lead advance for the detail, and this went on for about 3 days. Finally, I had to call them, the local police, and threaten them and said, look, if something happens to this protectee, I'm going to go before Congress and I'm going to testify, and I'm going to go on record and say that your police department did not provide X, Y, and Z, and so forth. And finally, I got a call from the sheriff in that county. He said, what do you need? But I still didn't have the resources I need. So it's not just a private security thing, it's government wide. I mean, we saw what happened last summer with probably the most high threat the most high threat protectee that the federal government's ever had. And he still almost got taken out last summer. And he had I don't know how many counter sniper teams he had, probably 3 or 4. And he still was almost assassinated. So it's an endemic problem no matter where we're at. But now that I'm out of the government, yes, private security details usually probably show up with 1 or 2 guys. And then what they do is they contract. So now the days of cowboys and Indians are over in the private sector. So if you're going to run, say if Charlie Kirk's detail goes to Utah, they'll probably bring 1 or 2 full-time guys, and then they subcontract to a company who's licensed to work in Utah. And that's how it works from now on, because now the days of just moving from state to state without licensure are no longer applicable. You have to actually be licensed to work in these states. If not, you incur heavy penalties and fines. So that's kind of how that all plays out. But you're getting subcontractors. So initially the rate starts out at, I don't know, maybe $100 an hour. By the time it washes down to the subcontractor, $30, $40 an hour. what kind of quality person are you going to get for $30 or $40 an hour? And that's another big problem in the private security sector right now. So there's a lot of issues. And after I looked at that video today, I was like, well, they did what they were supposed to do, but obviously they didn't have the resources to cover the rooftop. But that also goes back to the school police department. That falls on their responsibility. And I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this investigation shakes out and how that individual actually got access to the roof. But we'll have to wait and see what shakes out and how it's all going to play out.
I appreciate you finding the time to join tonight, Ryan.
Yeah, no worries.
For everybody out there in the audience, Ryan is also part of Mike's and my new venture, Dead Drop Intel. He wrote an awesome article on the Muslim Brotherhood that we published today. So you'll see Ryan on, Dead Drop. You'll see him on Survival Dispatch News. I will say this: Ryan specializes at poking the feds in the eye when they need it, which is most of the time.
They need it a lot right now. I'll say that. After working for the federal government for 25 years, they need a lot of poking in the eye right now. There's a lot of incompetence to go around right now. So,
True story. Okay, well, thanks again. I appreciate your time, Ryan.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, guys.
So, Mike, I'm going to pull up several different posts on X and then get you to comment on them. And then I'll roll over to Khalid after that. So let me make sure we got everybody on stage here. So the first one is pretty amazing. And I just want to reiterate, if it wasn't for Khalid, we wouldn't have all of these links. We wouldn't have had anything for a brief to do this tonight. So huge thanks to Khalid. So this one here from Mario Knopfel. Charlie Kirk shot in neck, wife and kids were on campus. Details are still emerging from today's shooting, blah, blah, blah. Kirk's wife, Erica, and their 2 children were at the campus with him during the attack. And later on, she posted Psalm 46:1, God is our refuge and strength and ever-present help in trouble, which I don't have words for it at all. Deborah Lee posted this. Instead of sharing the horrific, vile, and heart-stopping video, Charlie Kirk being shot, I urge you to share the images of his beautiful family whose worst nightmare has come true. Every kid deserves a dad. Every wife deserves a husband. Every American needs Charlie Kirk. Next one, if you're prone to being uneasy, seeing violent videos, don't watch this. I have a suspicion that this video may get taken down by YouTube. They love to give us strikes for stuff like this, but it's far too important not to put out there. So if they give us a strike, they give us a strike, is what it is. This is not a long video. This shows him being shot. And then, Mike, I'm coming to you to get a description of your take on this.
Counting gang violence. Great. Counting gang violence. Great. Counting gang.
It's hard to watch, man. Mike, within minutes of this happening, you texted me and said that's quite possibly a 308, just from the auditory report. And so we now know it came from 200 yards, elevated position. Just want to get your technical breakdown of the assassination based on what we know so far.
Yeah. So my background is I was a Special Forces sniper in the SIF. I was a Special Forces sniper reconnaissance team sergeant and team leader. And so I have profound experience as a sniper, which just means I have an understanding of sniper operations, but also external ballistics. There are several things that have already been mentioned by the guys that are spot on, including the doctor, about this reaction that he had after he was hit. There are 2 types of engagements. When you engage bad guys, you get 2 different types of feedback. One of the feedback is you don't hit the central nervous system, you hit something vital, and they bleed out. Essentially, they perish, but they're still fighting. And if they have the capability to fight because they can contract their muscles, they could, move their trigger finger, they could flee. Immediately when something that is alive gets hit, before it dies, it tries to, as a flinch response that Tony Blauer talks about a lot, it flinches and it starts to break contact. It's the same thing that happens. I'm a big game hunter. I harvest elk typically every year for my family. And when you hit an elk, you typically try to hit the biggest kill zone on that elk, which would be its pump house, its lungs, its heart. And when you hit that with a rifle or an arrow, what you'll get is that animal bleeding out, but it happens really fast, depending on the impact over the vital organs. The difference between that and what you saw with Charlie Kirk is there was a disruption of the central nervous system. When he got hit, he wasn't just hit in his carotid artery, and that's why you saw the bleed, because that could have been a grazing wound. And it wasn't just nicked, it was completely severed. And the reason I think it's a heavier round, remember, and not to insult anybody's intelligence that is listening to this, but the dimensions of the round speak to the caliber. So 30 cal is 0.308, right? If you take the metric version of it, it's 7.62 by 51 millimeters. The reason that's significant is because the size of that impact and then that hole that Charlie was bleeding out of is indicative of a large caliber round, not 5.56, which is 0.223 or 5.56 by 45 millimeter. Very small projectile hopped on a lot of gunpowder and a lot of velocity. And so when he gets hit, he was likely dead when he got hit. He gets hit, his neck goes back, his arms go limp, and he starts to bleed. He is likely already severed. That round has already severed his central nervous system, separating the connection between his brain and his body, and it's lights out. The guys who got on top of him very rapidly probably tried to stop the bleed. They could have applied pressure, but as they pulled him out, what I told my guys on the reacts as it happened before I even knew that he was deceased, it hadn't been reported yet, was even if they took him straight from that location, straight to an operating table, he is likely not going to survive. Because it's not a nick. It's like running a plow through the Autobahn. You are cutting and severing the highway for blood, transporting blood between the brain and the body, and there is no connection anymore. And so obviously this is a two-way highway, but once that's severed, he's got no blood flowing to the head. Even if they stop the bleed, if it's completely severed, the survivability rate is very low. Lastly, on the technical elements of a 200-yard shot, I've heard a lot of people say this. A lot of people claim that he's a sniper. A .308 rifle now, based on available commercial optics, is going to be a minimum of 21 power. When me and the guys went to sniper school or were on teams, it was a 10 power Leupold scope. It was a 10 power at best minute of angle scope. Now the standard is 21 power, meaning at 200 yards with variable magnification, at the bottom of that being 3x, at the top of that being 21x, anywhere in that range, I could be dialed into his pupil, right? His eye socket. I could quarter his eye socket with that reticle and quarter it in half as a unit of measure. And at 200 yards with 308, typically you don't zero at 100 yards. You might zero at 25 with a repeat zero, 300 yards for 5.56, but typically the round is coming up to the optic line at 200 yards, which means you don't have to be skilled as long as you have a good zero. You put the reticle on the target, and its point of aim is going to give you your desired point of impact. So you don't have to have a lot of skill sets. As a caveat, I will say, to plan something so deliberate where you have to do a reconnaissance, you have to case the place, you have to infiltrate undetected, you have to lay flat on your belly under stress, and then you have to exfil, takes a lot of training, and it takes a lot of experience. So this person, despite the ease of taking a shot on a target, does not translate to taking a shot under stress on a human being. This person either has robust training, the experience and the training, or the background as a deliberate profession of doing this, and has a lot of rehearsals under his belt prior to executing this mission set. And lastly, because I saw all the comments about this guy was suppressed. That registry of that rifle and that weapon system was a suppressed rifle. And I hear people going, that's not suppressed because that's not how it works. That's exactly how it works. The decibel range of a can, a suppressor, or a silencer, which is the worst term we've ever used in the history of guns, does not silence the gun unless you are using a subsonic or less than the speed of sound rifle round, which even then, you will hear the mechanics of the gun operating and a muffled sound from the registry of the gun, especially being downrange of the barrel. So whatever was shot was a high caliber rifle, and it was suppressed, and for sure the registry of that was suppressed, and he was within 200 yards is the estimation.
I appreciate that technical breakdown, Mike. Thank you very much. I notice our friends Mike Sterling and John Wheaton have joined. I'm going to play another video, Khalid, from a slightly different angle. I'm going to get your thoughts on the kill itself, the technical part of it, like Mike just did. And then I'm going to go to Mike and John immediately after that. 40 seconds, by the way.
I'm going to give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years? Counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
Hard to watch, really hard to watch. I think no matter how you cut it, when you see these videos like we did, we were discussing them, and Mike, all of us before we went live, when it happened, actually immediately when it happened, you don't survive that shot, period. Hold on, Khalid.
Charlie was wearing a vest, which is entirely likely. Anyone who's facing any kind of threats is going to have a vest on of some kind. But the shot doesn't look like it bounced off a vest. It looked like it was a shot to the neck. The problem is that getting that kind of accuracy is you can do it. I mean, anyone who's operated a weapon has got a 200-yard range down. That's not difficult to do, but getting that accuracy to be able to hit somebody on the neck, where you hit them, how you hit them, that's just it takes a lot. And then, like Mike was saying, getting the exfil, you've got to be trained. You're either a paid assassin or you're former military, because to be able to do what you did and then get out of there and then disappear, that's not something that the normal guy can do, because most assassins that we've seen have been shot on sight. As soon as they try and exfil, they end up getting shot. This guy disappeared. And it's like, if you go back to Butler, when the shot came on Trump, the guy was shot on the roof when he was trying to come down. It was game over. He never got away. But this guy somehow got down from the roof, disappeared, 2-3 hour manhunt for him, and they couldn't find him. Without going into a lot of detail, we've had a few shootings like this. We're always shooting at body because most of the people we're targeting are not wearing Kevlar. They're not wearing vests. So we're out on the field, and when we take a shot, we can take a shot to the chest, they're down. But you've got to expect Charlie Kirk was wearing a vest, because the amount of threats he gets, you've got to expect he was wearing a vest, but nothing ricocheted. That was a shot right to the neck. That's where I'm going to leave it. I think S2 wanted to comment on this as well.
I'll get to S2 after Mike and John, since they just joined us. So I'm going to go to Mike first here. So Mike, we've kind of dissected, not me, the guys have dissected this. Keith was on with us for a bit. Ryan Geho was here as well. So feel free just to give us your high-level thoughts on this, whether it be the technical shot or whether it be the implications going forward of an assassination of this stature happening.
Well, I think I think the first thing up front is one for Charlie.
Drink to that.
Mike did a great breakdown on the technical component. I've got absolutely nothing to add on that other than to say we're in that first 48 hours, and we also have to rely, and I'm not going to counter anything that you say, Mike, but we also have to look at a lot of the microphones that were in work there are parabolic mics as well. So suppress, not suppress. I lean to what you say and kind of agree. Yeah, probably suppress, but not ultimately. You know, that's more like a 75%. Yeah, definitely direct hit to the throat over there. And yeah, definitely a C-spine hit, just like Mike called it. If you saw that thoracic lockup that he did, yeah, there was no question about that. That was absolutely a C-spine setter. So I think the big thing that everybody here that's on the team, we all know, but I think everybody outside needs to remember that Charlie was the one guy who would talk to everyone. Absolutely everyone. That was his job. That was what he was doing. And unfortunately, they killed him for it. He was effective and he was honest. And that is reprehensible to me. Absolutely. And I don't know how we come back from this. I really don't. There's a lot of people that are pretty twisted up tonight about this. And I mean, you know, I've been watching what's going on in the audience, and I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people that got their panties in a twist over this, and I don't necessarily blame them at all. I mean, I've been pretty taken aback by this today. So, just, you know, if you're out there, just remember, hey, we're feeling you, okay? But let's not go burning the neighborhood down. Not that the conservative side actually does that. You know, that's what you get from the party of peace, love, and tolerance. So, but that's my 2 pesos on the whole thing.
All right, appreciate it, Mike. And I'll come back to you. We've got some tabs, or some expos, I should say, a bunch of tabs open. We'll come back to you for sure. John, you've spent a lot of time, you own a range, and you spent a lot of time shooting long distance, both yourself and with your young son. I don't know if you have anything to add to the technical aspect of this shot, but if you do, you're welcome to weigh in. But I definitely would like to hear your thoughts on the fact that this was a really strong Christian leader, a very strong leader of the Christian community. This is a huge loss for the country. And as Mike Glover said at the beginning of the broadcast, we're at a pretty serious inflection point here. Oh, hold on. Looks like you're on mute, John. Just a sec. There you go. Go ahead.
Am I good? Can you hear me? Okay.
Well, we can hear you. You're not good.
I expect nothing less from the Mad Bomber. I've had a rough afternoon, just because if I could think of anybody that could articulate our message in a kind, non-abrasive way, and could debate, as Mike said, anyone, and really articulate his beliefs in a way that anyone could understand, it was Charlie Kirk. I see, you know, all of these condolences online, and it's like I'm living in an alternate universe. How did we get here? It's like the Archduke Ferdinand moment, in my opinion. You know, that was the moment that kicked off World War I, and I'm not speculating that we're spiraling into civil war, but this is dark. This is an attack on our beliefs, in my opinion. This is not an attack on anything else but that. What our way of life and our worldview is, as conservatives, as Christians, as everybody on this side. And it is ironic that the when you look at pattern recognition, which that's intelligence, that's how we gather this stuff, the violence is coming from one side. The violence is not coming from the side that they say is violent. And War has been declared on our words, on the things that we say. And that's hard. That's hard to deal with because we all say and speak our minds about all of this stuff. And I think that a message was trying to be sent. And going just briefly into a couple of things that I noticed, and maybe this has already been said, but the timing of the shot was one of the key points for me. That the shooter waited until he saw Charlie come to rest, and then he took the shot immediately. Because if you look at it from a front view, he's kind of leaning forward, moving around as he does when he's talking. As soon as he sets back, the shot rings out. And that's how he was able to hit that precise point, was because he timed it perfectly. A professional, only a professional that has trained to make that shot can make that shot, in my opinion. I'm just a couple years into exploring long range shooting. I have some really good friends that are ex-snipers, and they all kind of came to the same conclusion. Very much, this looks like a professional shot. To know also that he had a vest and he had to hit something that was not covered by a vest. Now, a rifle round would probably go through a soft vest, but it might slow it down and save his life. But clearly went after a vulnerable point that he knew would be a kill shot. And for the Christian community, and for all of our fellow conservatives, this is not the time to get amped up. I've talked a lot of people off the cliff this afternoon. I've had a lot of people, hey, we're going to civil war. How do I buy a gun? How do I do this? People that I've been telling they need to train for years are all of a sudden interested in it real quick. But this is not the reaction we need. I'm not saying don't train. I'm not saying any of that stuff. Let's wait and let the fog clear. Let's get a clear picture of what's going on. I'm angry. I'm as angry as anyone else because this was wrong. It was evil. I can't think of a better word for it. It's evil. But now is not the time for us to just jump in and retaliate blindly, because make no mistake, the left will use that too. And I'll turn it back over to you, Chris.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it. So, S2, going to get your thoughts at this junction. Then I've got a video to play. Then I'll go to Mike Glover after that, and we'll figure it out after that.
So two things. Just had a report come in that the FBI had a subject in custody and he has been released. The supposed shooter was in possession of a pellet gun that they mistaked for something. They had a description of this guy. He was wearing jeans, black hat, black mask, so forth and so on, but he has been released. Another thing that I wanted to mention was there was another incident where some people had been able to sneak into a dinner where Trump was, and they got close to him and JD Vance. A lot of these folks out there right now, they need to stop playing foolish games and start tightening up their security, because this is going to get worse. And this crap needs to stop with them being, I don't know how these people got in, but they got right next to Trump, and any one of those two girls could have had a pistol and just shot him right in the face, which is a lot of what I see that's happened with this. This was, I don't want to say incompetence, because I think the security at the college, it is what it is. It's like Ryan said, you don't get the highest caliber people running security at the universities. And the other portion of it is that they also didn't allow concealed carry at the university, like they don't at a lot of other universities right now. And I think that's also a major factor in people's safety at the moment. So, but going back to it, I instantly saw, when I saw the video, I instantly said that came from distance and it was not up close. There was no way that came from the crowd, because I listened to the report of it. Like Mike said, I shoot 308, so I know what that sounds like pretty well.
I appreciate that very much, S2. So, Mike, I'm going to play a couple of videos and some expos. I'm going to try to get us through a few of them and then immediately come to you. So a witness describes the shooting. I personally believe he was dead on impact, 29 seconds.
Basically, I heard a loud bang, which I figured a shot would be a little bit louder, but I just saw it hit him in the chest, and then all of a sudden just tons of blood gushing right out where his heart is, and then he like fell over and slumped down, and everybody got down and was screaming, and then we all ran.
Can you describe just, did he appear to be moving afterward or what?
Not at all. I personally believe he was dead on impact.
Oh my goodness.
Basically,
So I don't know if she was off on a different angle or just under stress, didn't see where Charlie was hit. But I agree with her. The way he fell, Mike, I've already said that he's basically a DRT. Here's a post from Kash Patel's personal account. Rest in peace, my friend, conservative titan Charlie Kirk. I'm praying for Charlie and his family. His passion for America and fearless leadership inspired millions, and his impact will live on in this moment for generations. And the next one up, I saw this video this morning on my feed, and I think it so eloquently explains what Charlie Kirk was put on this earth to do. And this is the When People Stop Talking video, 49 seconds. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Mike.
I go around universities and have challenging conversations, and because that's what is so important to our country, is to find our disagreements respectfully, because when people stop talking, that's when violence happens.
I've never seen someone do this.
Well, it's a growing trend because people like me are facing violence, assaults, the left. Yes, the campus Antifa. I've been stormed out of restaurants. I've been assaulted publicly, multiple death threats.
What's your goal in this?
There's more people that agree with me than some people would actually believe, and they come out of the woodwork when I do stuff like this. We record all of it so that we can put on the internet so people can see these ideas collide. When people stop talking, that's when you get violence. That's when civil war happens, because you start to think the other side is so evil and they lose their humanity.
Wow, talk about prophetic words, Mike.
Yeah, he's a martyr for this movement, and I think it's a very traditional American movement. I mean, you can't vilify a man who's literally every engagement talking about peace and how we need to come to the table and have the conversation. He's never attacked anybody. He's never vilified anybody. And if he puts you on blast, it's because he shuts you down because you have no argument. And it's very logical. It's reasonable. And it's something that we needed more of. Now, who's going to take that torch? Because we obviously have extreme radical versions of this that aren't helping anything or anybody. I honestly can't even think, as John was talking, I can't think of anybody else in the space who had the heart that he had, who believed in God and family and came forward in debates and had a conversation. That can't be me, because I'll get upset. If somebody will blow the head gasket off of me and I'll just walk away. I can't deal with that. But he was so level-headed, and he's the one they took out. Well, why do you think that is? If you sit down at a table and you look at the most profound impact you could have in initiating a civil war or causing the most disruption, that's the guy you go over. The Mother Teresa of the conservative movement. That's who you go after. On the technical side, I will say this. A lot of people have misperceived. There's an easy misperception about him standing squared up underneath a pop-up tent and getting hit here. That shot in the neck was likely not head on. That shooter was angled. And that shot that you saw go into his neck, like some have described, likely severed his cervical spine right then and there, because the angle hit here and went through his neck and he was gone. He was dead before he hit the ground. Now, why is that impactful? Well, a couple things that's been described that I think are of note. He likely had soft armor on. He likely did. Now, I know his personal PSD, the protective detail he has is to deal with the people, which is, look, he's got a good protocol, right? He brings the crowd back. He sets a perimeter. He brings the guest that's going to ask the question forward. And they're in a microphone. He has one personnel that's standing right next to them to stop them from assaulting him, because that's the biggest threat. before today, for most people who did these type of engagements, that was the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is you're going to get spit on. You're going to get assaulted. But nobody would ever think that you would be shot. Nobody would ever think that you'd be shot from a dislocated, static position from a person who trained to shoot you. And it begs the question, is this part of a larger operation, campaign, even plot, right? Take it, operation, military organization, terrorist organization, funding, an ideology that's going to drive this momentum? Or is it just some low-level loser who's working with other people to do something like this, and then there's potentially more? Andy Frisella texted me right after this happened. He said, what do you think? And the first thing I said, man, is like, look, I always play devil's advocate, and I always lean in on worst case scenario. Because if you cover down and just talk about worst case, well, then everything in between, at least you have an idea. The worst case is that September 10th is the day Charlie Kirk dies. September 11th is somebody else, or a mass attack. And the reason I say this is because we could talk about problems all day long, but what people should know is, like, my family was out and about. I told my family, come back here now. I didn't even tell them why. I said, hey, something happened. I want you to drive back here, pay attention to traffic patterns. If you see any red, go the opposite direction, because there's two ways to get through the valley up to my place in the mountains. I said, if the south corridor is blocked, it could be, go north. If you're not thinking right now, holy crap, what if something happened tomorrow and these guys are right? What are you going to do about it? You need to have that conversation right now and come up with a hasty plan. And that's not a problem. We call it TSTs, time-sensitive targets. Come up with a hasty plan on the rooftop of your truck like we used to in war, at your dinner table, or over the phone. But you better figure this out. When I saw the crowd disperse and 50% of the crowd stand in place with their cell phones recording, trying to upload their videos to the gram, I thought to myself, if this was a mass attack, if it started with a shooting, everybody gets there, they get on their phone, and they just clack a device off wherever the corridor for exfil is. This is the easiest sitting ducks ever. They would kill everybody on the university of that campus, because like has been identified, UVU has their police department, and they're like Wackenhut security. They're not exactly the tier 1 police force. So enough has happened today to create a lot of generational trauma. This is going to be talked about for years, for generations potentially. It's what happens next that we should be concerned about.
Yeah, I appreciate it very much, Mike. Number one, I did the same thing. I spoke to Cindy on the phone and said, just get home now. She was in Orlando, and I said, you don't know what's going to happen today. Just get home, get off the road. And this Haywood Jablomi, you can go fuck yourself. And not only have you been banned from this channel effective immediately, I've reported you to YouTube as well. So anyway, Jeff's up next. Jeff, I'm going to go to some media here and try to get us through. But Khalid did a great job lining them up. I think just the looks of it, there's probably 15 or 20 of them there. So I'm going to play through a few of them.
Sure.
And then get your opinion at that point. This is disgusting, by the way, this one. MSNBC speculated that Charlie Kirk shooter, who sniped him from a campus building 200 yards away, may have been a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration.
In which a shooting like this happens.
Yeah, and again, to emphasize what you just emphasized, we don't know any of the full details of this. That we don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration, or so we have no idea about.
In which a shooting like this
I'm letting
happens.
you play twice on purpose.
Yeah, and again, to emphasize what you just emphasized, we don't know any of the full details of this. That we don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration, or so we.
What an asshole comment. Nothing more to add to that. Breaking, Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk has died at age 31 after being shot at a college event in Utah. President Trump confirms he leaves behind his wife and 2 children. That was just one that Khalid had put in. He had to rewrite the brief multiple times, so we'll move on from that one. This bitch should be taken off the air immediately. 35-second video.
Perfect, because as we were just talking about a moment ago with Alan, after one of the Doge employees was allegedly attacked in Washington, D.C., that's what Donald Trump used as a justification to send in federal troops into Washington, D.C. to get things under control. The carjacking situation, he used that. And I know it's hard to predict the future, Mark, but you can imagine the administration using this as a justification for something.
So this despicable bitch goes on. It's funny, Western Lensman said the same thing. The despicable ghouls at MSNBC immediately attacked Charlie Kirk in wake of shooting. Matthew Dow blames Kirk's pushing hate speech. I won't read the rest. I'll let you hear it. 52 seconds.
Talk to me about the environment in which a shooting like this happens.
Yeah, and again, I emphasize what you just emphasized. We don't know any of the full details of this. That we don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration, or so we have no idea about this. But following up on what was just said, he's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions. And I think that's the environment we're in, that people just, you can't stop with these sort of awful thoughts you have and then saying these awful words and not expect awful actions to take place.
Matt.
And that's the unfortunate environment we're in.
What an asshole.
Yeah.
I got a couple more, Jeff. I'm going to get you really fired up, get everybody's blood pressure up. Next one's fat ass JB Pritzker blames Charlie Kirk being shot on President Trump in January 6th.
My sympathy to Charlie Kirk's family and to Charlie Kirk, who obviously has, become a target for somebody. I don't know whether it's political violence because I don't know who did it. I know they seem to have somebody in custody. But I will say that political violence, unfortunately, has been ratcheting up in this country. We saw the shootings, the killings in Minnesota. We've seen other political violence occur in other states. And I would just say it's got to stop. And I think there are people who are fomenting it in this country. I think the president's rhetoric often foments it. We've seen the January 6th rioters who clearly, have tripped a new era of political violence.
And last one, then I'm coming to you, Jeff. So an unbelievable moment on the House floor. Rep. Lauren Boebert requests a moment of prayer for Charlie Kirk. Democrats can be heard shouting no. Then Rep. Anna Paulina Luna shouts back, y'all calls us. 56 seconds.
What purpose does the gentlelady from Colorado rise? Let's wait a minute. Wait a minute. The House will be in order. The House will be in order. The House will be in order.
I'm going to put a link to that in the live chat just because the volume's kind of low, but you can definitely hear some asshole comments in the background. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, no, I think you saw that old guy there who was sitting there saying, "Oh, hateful speech." He obviously is either never listened to Charlie Kirk, which makes him completely ignorant, or he has listened to Charlie Kirk and is lying about everything he said. Charlie Kirk exhibited more patience and more understanding in a debate than I ever would have. I'd be calling people all sorts of four-letter words in response to the stuff that he got hit with. But he was always very loving, very Christian, very understanding, very patient, and tried, the most he would say was, "I let you talk, let me answer your question." But again, this is the media showing you who they are. And when people tell you who they are, believe them. These people are evil. They are anti-American. They are they are just evil. They have no redeeming qualities whatsoever. If we can't get them off the air, okay, fine. We don't own the networks. We can't get them off the air. Boycott those networks, and don't just marginalize them as much as humanly possible, because as my wife says, liberals are just evil people, and they really, really are. I've come to that conclusion. I don't want it to be true. I have some friends that are liberals that really aren't that evil. Of course, they're not that liberal. But when you see these people celebrating the death of a man who was married with 2 kids because they don't like his stance on abortion or transgender surgery for kids, that's evil. I'm sorry, that's just evil. And that's what we're dealing with now.
Yeah, good take. Mike, after hearing all of that rhetoric and bullshit there, I'll throw the question out there again. Is there any way for us to reconcile the two sides? I don't think there is.
I mean, there's a profound opportunity for the right to come out and obviously suppress the fire that's in a lot of people. The problem is when you see this type of thing happen, especially to young people, if they weren't radicalized before, they're radicalized now. And a lot of conservatives like myself, we abide by law and order. That's kind of the MO, right? We want that. We want ICE to go into sanctuary cities that are literally crushing American citizens' jobs, receiving into violence, etc. And we want to do that the right way. The only way to do it the right way is Trump needs to come out. He needs to do a press conference. J.D. Vance needs to come out. He needs to do a press conference. And he needs to speak to these people who are so impressionable and tell them the right way to do this is get involved in legislation and politics and business and leadership in your community. That's the only way he's going to suppress some of this. But for sure, there is going to be radicalized extreme, because the fringes are on both sides, right? They're on the edges, on the outskirts. There is going to be retaliation from extreme right radicals who have been waiting for the opportunity to go to war. And what you're going to see, because it's typically how it works, is it's going to be more profound. It's not going to be a shot in the dark from 200 yards away. It will be profound. And I don't want to say that. I don't want to think that, to say that out loud. But everything that I've seen throughout history, throughout warfare, when you have this kind of thing happen, you're typically going to see, as this pendulum swings, a further swing in the opposite direction. And it's going to be likely an attack. It's going to be likely retaliation. I guarantee you there's a lot of kids talking right now about what they do. My hope is they lean in, like Charlie Kirk did, on God. And if they do that as Christians, that conversation is like, look, man, we don't need to hurt anybody, despite the impulse to do so, the natural inclination to do so. My hope is that somebody has to lean forward and basically pick up the torch. And honestly, is there anybody in the panel who knows who that is? I can't name one. There's nobody so balanced to be able to communicate to the youth and communicate to people. I can't think of one. And that's the unfortunate thing, is today we didn't just initiate our country in the wrong direction at a crossroad. We also watched a man who was a family man, a man of God, who was gunned down over his speech, which was logical and reasonable. When you get to that point where you're so non-radical, but you're so impactful, influencing the hearts and minds, that you're deemed evil by evil people, man, oh man, we have gone down a horrible path. And my only hope is that leadership, like real leadership, like we've described, these politicians aren't your leaders. They're your representatives. We need profound leadership to step forward and take the torch. And again, I don't know who that is. I honestly don't.
Yeah, and neither do I for that matter. So, Khalid, I'm going to go through a couple more X posts and then come right back to you. So, first one's Nancy Mace. It's a 3-minute video. I don't know that we'll watch the whole video, but we'll watch enough to get the gist of it.
Democrats own what happened today. I am devastated. My kids have called panicking. All the kids of every conservative in the country called panicking. Just because you speak your mind on an issue doesn't mean you get shot and killed. And he was talking about mass tranny violence when this happened. In this country, we have the First Amendment. We have freedom to speak what's on our mind and shouldn't get shot because we believe in our system of democracy, conservative, liberal, whatever you are. You shouldn't be shot for your beliefs. Nobody believes in that. I hope that every single Democrat across the country will stand up and acknowledge that they have a problem within their party. I just can't even. My staff are freaking out. My children are panicked. I'm a very outspoken member. There are many outspoken members on both sides of the aisle. I got in a screaming match with one of my colleagues here before because she had decided to attack the way my body looks because I don't want men in women's bathrooms. So when are my colleagues on the left side of the aisle, the Democrats, going to own the violence that's happening in this country against Republicans and against conservatives? It's unforgivable what's happening right now. It's only going to I don't see it getting better. I'm worried about copycats. I actually just got off the phone with the Capitol Police. I've requested a meeting with the Sergeant at Arms. I am very worried. I sent my staff home today. They're gone. I don't want them in my offices because I'm worried about the safety of the people who work for me. And now we have to look at how are we going to function once we get through this devastating day, which does not look very good right now. But how do we move forward? Like, I want to be able to walk and go to work like everybody else. I want my employees to be able to go to, not be afraid to show up at the office. People are scared.
So I'm going to go to the next one quickly, Khalid, and then come right to you. But this is a fairly interesting one. Newly posted footage shows what appears to be an individual on the roof of Losi Center at UVU in the moments before Charlie Kirk was shot, 20 seconds long.
Can ride up.
Yeah. You think he'd already be placed?
You would think that. So there's somebody on the roof right there? Just saying. He just ran from over from over there, ran in. And now he's right there. Just saying, just getting right up.
So I think there was a graphic, that went with this as well. So that basically shows this dot on the left is where Charlie Kirk was. And of course, the balloon over here is where the shooter was. So I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about that for a few minutes. Khalid, go ahead.
Yeah. I get stuck on this because when you weaponize words, you've created a major issue for yourself. What you did today was you showed that the most polite gentleman who was able to handle everything became a target because of what he said. And there are hostile people in the US. There are hostile people around the world that talk very violently, that are allowed to get away with anything, and nothing's ever done to them. But you took the guy that was able to handle a conversation with such confidence that you had to respect him. And you said, this is our target. Now, what have you left? I mean, we keep talking about who's going to take his place. Well, nobody's going to take his place. You need to forget that idea. Charlie Kirk was one in a generation. He was one in a generation. You're not going to get another one. I mean, after Martin Luther King, who took Martin Luther King's place? Nobody. That was one in a generation. You took out a generational leader that in the future could have been a congressman, could have been a senator, could have been the vice president, could have been the president of the United States. And he had that charisma. He had that ability to get people to follow him. What message have you sent to the people though? your words, they're dangerous. Your First Amendment right of freedom of speech is now questionable. Because if I don't like what you said, I can take you out. And that, like Mike was saying, when that pendulum swings, that pendulum, when it swings, it's going to wipe a lot of people out. Because right now, a lot of people for the past 6 months, 7 months, since Trump came into office, have been holding fire, have been holding anger and saying, wait, let the president deal with it. Let the president deal with it. Let the president deal with it. This is that trigger. This is pulling the pin out of the grain and going, okay, let's see what you do. And you're not ready for what will happen. The radical right is all of your 2As. They're all gun owners. They're all trained with weapons. They know how to use them. They are not afraid to use them. You have started something here. And I keep saying trigger event. A trigger event is something that swings the pendulum to a level where getting it back to center is going to be very difficult. This was a trigger event. And no matter how we want to say, who's going to take his place, go through the list. You're not going to find anybody that has this charisma, that has this patience, that has this presence of mind, and this level of knowledge. And in that space of all those youth, they're now looking for an avenue to vent. Now, it'd be great if they all turn to the Bible, they all turn to the church, and they go there and they seek their refuge there instead of going out on the streets for violence. But you are going to have a few in there that go, no. You went after mine, I'm going to go after yours. And that's my fear. Because after all the trannies, after all of the SSRIs, you now have a pendulum shift that when that pendulum comes back, it's going to take a lot of people. And I don't think America's ready for that. I really don't think it's ready for that. And where it goes from there, God only knows.
Yeah, for sure. So Mike Sterling, lots of X posts there all over the map. Is there anything in there in particular that caught your attention that you'd like to comment on?
I think the big one was the one that you showed earlier, where he was talking, and I believe that was filmed this morning, where he was talking about, while we're still talking, that's a good thing, because as soon as we stop talking, that's when civil wars happen, and we don't want that. And I see, well, I'll tell you what, I've been working my heart out over here trying to mod some of these people. Well, I'll tell you what, there's a whole bunch of slavering idiots. I'm going to call you what you are. You're a bunch of slavering idiots. And like I discussed earlier today, the only people that are screaming for blood are people that have never had blood on their hands. You don't want that. You never want that. You don't, because you don't come back from that. I don't like it. I don't ever want to raise my hand to another person ever again as long as I live. That doesn't mean that I won't, but it's not good. It's definitely not good for the country. You keep talking and talking and talking and talking until we come to a common ground and we fix something. But violence is not the way. It's not. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to shy away from it either. All right. And I feel that that's pretty much all of us here. We're not going to shy away from it. If it comes to us, well, then you're going to get it back 100-fold. And that's not where you want to be. So yeah, I think that's the one big thing that everybody needs to remember, because boy, I'll tell you what a bunch of dumbasses. And I'm saying that in Red Foreman's voice for anybody that catches that. And I'm going to pull up my paper and just whisper dumbass over and over. So yeah, that was my take.
Yeah, appreciate it, Mike. John, same question. We covered a lot of ground there in different X posts. Did anything stand out to you in particular?
Well, I don't think I don't think we can share a country with this level of hatred. Unfortunately, you cannot share a country with people that you cannot have a civil conversation with. And Charlie embodied civil discourse. That's what he embodied. And the reason that there is nobody that can replace them is because you have the Steven Crowders and the Ben Shapiros and all of these others, very talented people, but none of them had the ability to have a civil conversation without raising the temperature in the room. Charlie could do that more skillfully than anybody. And I mean, he's 12 years younger than me. He's 31 years old. That's just the beginning. Like he has young kids. The best parts of his life were still in front of him. And the fact that they chose him, that he was the target, says exactly where we are. Think about the last 2 weeks. And I know Survival Dispatch just covered the stabbing in the train station, the assault on the Catholic school by a deranged, lunatic, transgender demon. All of these things are signs that they don't want to talk. The time of talk is over for them. What do we do with that? What do you do? I'll quote Lord of the Rings. What can men do against such reckless hate? That's the question we all have to answer. And this is not me condoning violence. And Mike was absolutely right. You don't understand what civil war means. If you want that, you're either a moron or you're severely uneducated, and probably both.
Yeah, I concur. So, Mike Glover, again, same question. We covered a lot of ground there, 8, 9 different stories. Did anything stand out to you in any of the comments made in those videos or in those posts, Mike?
The biggest thing that stands out to me is the refusal of the Democratic Party to stand in silence and even protest that they're not going to stand in silence. Like nobody's asking them to do anything but shut up. And they can't even do that, which is an indication to me that this country is far divided. I mean, we're way beyond the division analogy. We're far divided. And when they think they're standing there representing their constituents, because I honestly believe that, I think they think, well, you know, my constituents wouldn't want that from me. So they've already radicalized. It's inverse. They either have a radicalized base and they got the radicalized proponent and advocate in Congress, or they're an activist. Either way, they're on the wrong side of history. And that's a huge problem in this country. It's like, all we want you to do is stand for decency. And if you can't shut up for a moment of silence in this country, just like the State of the Union address or the incoming address where they would stand and applaud for Ukraine because millions of people have died in Ukraine. They're applauding for it, but they can't stand in silence and advocate for a young boy who's got brain cancer, right? So it's like these people are demented. And I just want decency in politics, and we're getting way away from just the focal point of just getting work done, right? Like, hey, can we just do legislation? We are so far away from that initial argument of like, hey man, we just need legislation. We need policies. We're so far radicalized from that. And we see what's going on in the UK, Australia, Canada, the Five Eyes essentially. And I'm thinking, well, how does this unfold? Well, it unfolds in complete chaos and calamity where nothing can be done. And the political discourse it's happening now. Everybody's going to show their ass tomorrow morning. But what does it mean? Well, it just means the infighting continues. We don't progress as a nation, even when we have a president trying to drain the swamp and go after corruption, which I think he could be doing a better job at that. So it's like Elon Musk said recently, like it's impossible to fight the corruption in the system because it's too far gone. So what can we do as individuals? Again, I default to God, family, and community. When shit hits the fan, which is this thing that we talk about often on this channel, it is going to decentralize, which was what George Washington wanted. He wanted a decentralization of powers. He wanted the United States to be able to decentralize power so the federal government didn't have enough. What happens when every politician in Washington, D.C. on the wrong side of history is so radical you can't get anything done? Well, the hope is, at least this is a hope, your state that you belong to, the republic that you belong to in your state, lock shit down, and you could focus on community, family, state issues, and get away from this crazy chaos that's going on. I'll tell you from experience, because I'm living it in Utah, that's not the case here in Utah. Utah has been completely infiltrated with radicals. You go to Salt Lake City and you think Utah is a state of conservatism. It's not. It's a closet sanctuary state. They could do whatever they want. I've seen an influx of illegal immigrants pour into my town of 16,000, where I don't even feel safe walking down the road. 2 people that happened to be illegals were stabbed at a Mexican restaurant, which there's like one in Heber City, stabbed. A year ago, a young girl who was Mexican was murdered and dumped in a lake right down the road. I live in Pleasantville. If it's happening in my own backyard, imagine these sanctuary cities, these inner cities, all the places that people feel really unsettled. So, man, I don't know where else I could run and hide. I think that's over. I think we need to stand and fight, but we're standing and fighting for the wrong things. We need to stand and fight for our own communities and our own families and our own values in our own backyard. That doesn't mean picking up your AR and going to war against the opposition. It means getting intimately involved with what's going on in your backyard. And after I've pulled back the veil and the curtain, I am in shock. From the 4th District Court to corruption in the Sheriff's Department, the city police. I mean, it is insane. And if you do the same in your own backyard, you'll see a whole bunch of problems that you likely could fix yourself. And I think, again, we identify a lot of problems. We need to start focusing on fixes. And I think those are the fixes. It starts, in my opinion, with God.
Well said. Very well said. Appreciate that very much. Randy, I want to come back to you. It's been a little bit. And again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we went through a bunch of media there. Was there one thing that stood out to you in particular? Oh, looks like you're on mute, Randy. Go again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, got you now.
I'm going to piggyback off what Khalid said, because everybody's made some great comments, and what Mike just said is spot on. But Khalid talked about, he took him out because of the words he said. Really, I think that is true. There's no doubt about that. That's why Charlie Kirk was killed today. That's why he was murdered. But it's deeper than that, right? Because if you look at a few years back, because I followed Charlie Kirk as well, you look a few years back, there were much smaller crowds at those universities that he was conversing with. And that was the first thing I noticed today when I saw the video of what happened. I was like, dang, look how big the crowd is now. And so what we have to understand, and you know, I could be wrong. I don't think so. But we know that the other side, and I'm not going to, again, not calling them right or left. These are the side that hates America. And they want to fundamentally change it. Those people invested heavily on turning the youth against this country. As we all know, like me, you, Jeff, all the older guys on here, Cleet also, we grew up in a country they taught you to be patriotic at school, right? We grew up to love this country, and that's what you were taught from your core, from the time you were born, going all the way through school. That has been taken out of school. So what Charlie was doing was winning the youth back. All the damage that they've done and how they steered them awry, Charlie Kirk was bringing them back on point and the direction that they should be and that we need them to be, and that all of us should grow up in this country feeling like. So I think that's really, he was making a dent in that, and he was helping change and shape the youth, which, as we all know, is our future. 20 years from now, they're going to be the ones running the country. So I think that is one of the reasons they had to intervene, or they felt like it was now, because he's definitely picked up a lot of traction and momentum in his movement. And I think that's why we saw what we saw today.
I appreciate it, Randy. Well said. Khalid, just looking to see if you want to comment on anything at this stage. Then John, then Jeff, then Mike Sterling.
No, I think I've laid the base. A lot of people in the comments are talking about, what if this was a terror attack? Well, it kind of was. I mean, what you've seen is a small glimpse of what happens when shit hits the fan, and you've got dams that are holding back one side, and if that dam moves, then you're going to see what happens in America. And I am worried. I am honestly worried. I was worried about 9/11 tomorrow anyway. And now I'm even more worried because you have done something that you should not have done. And the reaction is still pending. I don't think Donald Trump doing a press conference, I'm going to disagree with Mike for the first time. I don't think Donald Trump doing a press conference is going to calm the anger down. I don't think JD Vance doing the press conference, because they're all politicians. At the end of the day, they're politics. You need a community leader, and there's nobody that can step up and play this level, because this is a space that can't be filled. And I am worried now as to what can happen after, because you have pent up rage, and that's got to be released somehow.
I appreciate that, Clede. Thank you. John's got something that he wants to share. Go ahead, John.
Yeah. So when I got home this afternoon, my son, you guys, I know I've talked to him, and he's quite a skilled distance shooter himself, but he told me a story that kind of rocked me even again as I was kind of navigating this whole the events of today. And he told me a story. He's like, I heard that Charlie Kirk died at school, and I was in study hall, and we were talking about it, me and a couple of my buddies, and there were girls in study hall that heard it and started cheering and started clapping, elated with the fact that Charlie Kirk was dead. These are 12 and 13-year-olds, American girls. What are we teaching our kids? And Randy's absolutely right. The reason they were scared of Charlie Kirk was because he was effective. Remember who was in charge of the Get Out the Vote effort for Donald Trump? It was TPUSA. It was Charlie Kirk's outfit. The guy worked really, really hard to help Trump win his second term and was very effective. But what he's more effective, and there is a specific demographic that he is extremely effective at reaching, and that was young American boys. And those are the ones that can lead us out of this darkness. It takes strong men to lead communities, to lead states, to lead countries. And if you see that threat, I mean, who knows? Who knows what Charlie could have become had he continued to live? Maybe he's a presidential candidate down the road. Who knows? But they clearly saw a threat in Charlie Kirk. And the visceral reaction, I mean, if you want something that'll make you almost want to vomit, go see what Libs of TikTok has been posting of these people posting TikTok rejoicing videos about Charlie Kirk dying. This is a father. This is a husband, a hardworking American, a devout Christian, and a very, very intelligent man. And and not us, but there are people that have so much hate in their heart that they're just rejoicing. As I said earlier, we cannot share a country with this ideology. And that breaks my heart because I love America.
Yeah, appreciate that, John. Thank you. But just before I move on to Jeff and then Mike Sterling, just a couple quick things. I would throw it out there because there's a bunch of studies that show that, in particular, white liberal women, 62% is the latest study, 62% admit to taking SSRIs. That means the number is probably 82%. If you look at the side effects of SSRIs, it's not just suicide ideation. it's homicidal ideation. So you have a massive number of people who are Democrats, left wing, whatever you want to call them, communist Marxists, that are hooked on these SSRIs, and they're losing their damn minds, and they're violent as all get out. And this is the stuff that RFK Jr. has been talking about. We look at it all the time in the chat and the comments, right? People just coming completely unglued that we have to kick out because the hate is so brutal with them, and they wish for this stuff. So that's actually where I'm going to go with you, Jeff. So we've got strikes on YouTube. We've been kicked off of Facebook. I've been suspended multiple times on X. The last 3 times I got suspended on X was because I said, you know, a specific individual like Mayorkas, for example, needs to be charged, tried, and convicted of treason for what he did at the southern border, and that he should face the maximum penalty. And we all know what the maximum penalty is. And I got thrown off of X because I was fomenting violence. The shit that's on social media right now, this minute.
Yeah, you were quoting the Constitution.
Right. It says, right. I quoted the Constitution. But it's not just our, you know, chat here that I'm trying to keep up with, but the posts on X in particular and Blue Sky these are demons. These are not Americans. They don't deserve to be in our country as long as they stay on these SSRIs and they're possessed the way that they are. And here's the thing, I'll let you roll with it. There was a poll, an online poll, that asked how many people were offended by the Sydney Sweeney jeans ad, and the number was 12%. This is not a 50-50 deal in America where 50% are anti-American and 50% are American. It's 12% that got pumped up by stolen money through USAID and other scams to make it look like it's 50-50. This isn't 50-50. This is 88% good guys, 12% bad guys trying to pretend that they're 50% of the dang country, causing all of these problems. So I'll get off my soapbox and let you take it from there.
Well, we see it all over the place where they try to make the 90-10 sound like the 10 are the majority. They're not. John hit on something. I think the reason that Charlie Kirk was assassinated is because he was effective. If you look at the last election, young men broke decidedly for Trump, decidedly, more than you could imagine. And I think a large part of that was because of Charlie Kirk, because the way he delivered a message, it was logical, it was sane, it was not emotional, and it appealed to sanity. And I hate to say it, my daughter's a young woman, but there are so many young women on these frickin' psychotropic drugs and who have been completely brainwashed that if you say men and women are different, they lose their shit. Now, the Democrats on the other side, they influence elections using money stolen through USAID and laundered through God knows who. Well, the money, that gravy train got derailed when Trump basically said, yeah, we don't need USAID anymore. So they're desperate. So they've lost their funding. So what do? They killed the most influential and effective guy on the other side who has countered everything they've done for pennies on the dollar. So they have to get rid of him because he's more effective and he's more efficient. And he's telling the truth. We need to tap down our baser instinct, which is to strike out violently against those who strike out violently against us, and basically pick up the sword that Charlie dropped and charge forward. At some point it may get to where you can't do that peacefully. I hope it doesn't. But you can't let evil win by succumbing to it. You've got to you keep going. And Charlie was he was a warrior for this country, and someone else needs to pick up his sword and charge into the line. It's like the guy in front of you gets shot, you pick up his gun and keep charging, and that's what we need to do.
So I just deleted a couple comments from people. Actually, I banned them.
We got a lot of trolls today.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
tracking a ton of trolls
boy.
tonight.
A
But
lot of them tonight.
one of them said, I'm on SSRIs and it hasn't changed me as a person. Fuck
But
you.
in a patrol.
But they say fuck you. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so they're fucking nutcases is what they are. But
See, here's
anyway,
the problem, Chris. People on drugs don't know they're messed up.
correct. Yeah, exactly.
If you ask a crazy guy if he's crazy,
That's
the
right.
answer is always no.
Right. So I'm gonna
Sterling. Mike, are you crazy?
I'm gonna go through the last 4 things that we have to share, and then I've got Mike on deck, and then I'll go through everybody one more time just to get final thoughts based on this stuff here. So I saw this earlier. I don't know if it's true or what came out of it. Black male shot someone at Charlie Kirk event. Police are searching for him now. We are looking for all the information. We have a name. We can't post it yet. So I don't know what the deal is with that. Here you go. These people want you dead from Brandon Herrera. Right on cue, deranged leftists are celebrating Charlie Kirk being shot. Pure evil. That's an understatement. 20 seconds.
I'm not saying she deserved it, but I'm saying God's timing is always right.
And goodness knows the way God's light lonely.
Look at the eyes on this broad. That's 100% a deranged SSRI junkie right there.
It's
They all
always
have,
the eyes.
Well,
they
she's
all,
Always the eyes.
she's
it's always
signaling
the
to us she's a loser. So
yeah, but it's always the eyes, right? They're just
for
whacked.
sure.
From Andy No, trans and far left extremists on Blue Sky are celebrating the shooting of Charlie Kirk. He had been discussing the trans mass shootings in the U.S. I wish the bullet that hit Charlie Kirk a very pleasant day. Oh, wow, she did a good job. Thoughts and prayers to the bullet's family. Finally, some good news out of my state, laughing my ass off. Next one up, and this is from the cesspool known as Reddit. Let's see, the cost of liberty, as he would say, pro-gun activist shot, ironic. The video looks like he was shot long range. Do we have an update? Nothing particularly interesting, the balance of that. Or there. Suffice it to say, like, I'm not surprised by anything that comes out of Reddit. It's just a complete, disaster, shithole. So, Mike, your final thoughts. And by the way, hold on, Chris, that's way above and beyond. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
Got so many things coming up here. It's crazy. They're scrolling by us. Actually, there was another one, by the way, from Scott that I missed. Scott, $20. Or thank you very much, Scott. Final words, Mike.
Oh, I'm allowed to come back on now.
No,
you guys called me crazy for a little while, and
just
then automatically toss me off. Yeah, okay.
Well, you didn't reply.
Just this SSRI.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So I do want to revisit the comment that you'd made, Chris, that nearly 80% of those women say that they are supposedly on SSRIs. Here's the scary part about that entire thing. That means there's an entire 20% of them that are undiagnosed.
Well, hold on. Add this to your calculus, Mike. So Oregon and Washington State allow farmers to retrieve sewage from the municipal sewage treatment plant, so human sewage, and spread it on their fields. The same regulation was just came into effect in California. You ready for this? There are multiple people who've been tested in Oregon and Washington who've never taken an SSRI in their life, never taken a Xanax in their life. And the level of Xanax in their bloodstream is higher than if they had been prescribed the drug in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
pardon the pun, but what kind of shit is that?
Exactly. So, and you also go back to, and I know Randy and Mike are definitely gonna agree on this one, but look at the sheer volume of SSRIs that were pushed on us as veterans from the VA. And look at how many of us have just pushed back on it and said, no, I'm not going to take those friggin' things. I honestly think those SSRIs are what is primarily responsible for the massive quantity of veteran suicides out there.
Yep.
And I honestly, in our case, I think it's intentional, because then they don't got to take care of us. They don't got to deal with us anymore. So yeah, it's a terrible thing. I don't know, just moderating over here tonight has been ugly. There's a lot of really bad people who really need to take a good look at their own souls out there. I mean, I know most of us have got a little bit of schmutz on our souls, but man, I'll tell you what, you look at these people and I'm like, dude, what is wrong with you?
Speak for yourself, man. My soul is schmutz free. I'm perfect. If you don't believe me, just ask me.
Says the CIA guy, right?
I was going to say, only because you probably got a fresh one issued when you exited the agency.
What?
Yeah.
That's
I just don't know.
Started by people who know things.
I just don't know who they stole it from. So, you know, yeah. I'm glad that we're all here together to do this stuff and talk about this stuff. And I'm glad that we actually have a place to be able to stand up and say, hey, guys, you know, this is the breath that everybody needs to take. Let's take a look at this. Did we talk, Chris, about the 48-hour rule?
No, good time to bring it up, by the way.
Okay, so 48-hour rule. Everybody out there in the audience, listen up. Okay, so the 48-hour rule is something that we implemented around here, and a lot of intelligence teams wind up using this as well. And what you do is you take 48 hours after a major event like this, and you automatically have to look at anything that's coming out on the news, you know, anything that's being reported by the press, any intelligence that you wind up getting in, and you label it all as suspect. Every single bit of it. You have to assume anything coming out of the news is bullshit.
Yeah.
All right. And we do that for a full 48 hours. All right. Which is why we haven't talked a whole lot about the specifics of anything, because there's a ton of information out there. Right. We've made our suggestions and our observations, but that's it. So I highly counsel everybody out there, take a breath, adhere to a 48-hour rule. Okay, let's let this shake out. Let's see what kind of proper intelligence gets brought to the fore, and we'll see what's actually happening out there.
Yeah. Bullshit filters do not work quickly.
Right.
Yep.
No, they don't.
So I'm going to go Khalid next for your final thoughts. Khalid, Randy, John, Jeff, and Mike Glover will wrap things up for us. Final thoughts, Khalid.
We need to find unity. The Bible teaches that if you get slapped on one cheek, you turn the other cheek. And we've done that over and over again. And now when the volcano is about to explode, we need to find unity and not push ourselves to explode, because the explosion is not controllable after it's done. And we'll all regret it. Every one of us will regret it if it explodes. And the whole reason that we all got together tonight to talk about it was that we want to stop that explosion. So take a minute, listen to what Mike said, and said, you know, the 48-hour rule, and let it shake out. If you notice, most of us have been talking about unity and what's been going on with the country in the past, how we got to where we are right now, and what we need to do to fix it, what we need to do to stop it. Right now, we need to find a point of unity. It's not with a politician. You need to find a church. You need to find a pastor. You need to find a community leader that can bring you together and take that pain away. Because pain manifests itself in a form of revenge and violence. And you've got to stop that. And when you can stop that, the nation will heal and move forward.
Yeah, well said, Khalid. I appreciate that. Randy Nance.
Well, I'll keep this short and brief because we have definitely covered a lot of ground tonight. And everybody, I mean, you know, what else is there to be said about this? Everybody understands, you know, that when this type of thing happens, there's got to be the second and third order effects. So we're just going to wait it out. But the truth is, folks, man, we, as Khalid did, we do need to, as a nation, find a way back to unity. And I know there's been quite a few comments on the other side that we're too far gone and that can't happen. And that's quite possible. But I go back to how this country was founded. Go ahead,
Randy. Well, let me throw this on the table. Getting back to peace is probably going to involve getting rid of all the people that are anti-American. That you said one way or the other, they got to go.
Yeah, I didn't say peace. I said we need to find unity. I just want to clarify that because I don't know that it's going to be a peaceful solution.
I don't
At this
know.
point, I don't know that we have a peaceful solution back out of this. But again, I'll go back to how this country was founded, right? Because now those were leaders. We left Europe to get away from the oppression that was going on there. And everybody came here to start over in a life and then to be able to worship Christianity as the book says it is, as the Bible. And that's how we wrote our Constitution. That's how we wrote the Declaration of Independence. And even when it came to the Bill of Rights, which came a little bit later, we used the Bible to do that. And so we have gone so far. One of the first things we did was remove, we used to have congressional pastorals, right? And they would basically help guide and mentor all the senators and the congressmen, right? That was probably a good thing, because if we have our elected officials that fear God, right? If they have the fear of God in them, that is a good thing. Because if you don't have the fear of God in you, then there is no accountability for anything. You can go out and do whatever you want, and there's no consequences. We know that isn't true. So we removed those, then we removed them from the government, we removed them from public space, and we removed them from the schools. This country was never designed to be that way, which is exactly why I think we're going through the judgment of God right now. And it goes back to the Bible. America was a God thing. This country and the way it was set up was never supposed to be religion and separated from the government. They're intertwined. So you cannot separate them, or what we see is happening. And it's why none of it makes sense. So we've got to find a way to get back to that. I think that is our only shot of coming back together if we ever do.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. So, John, your final thoughts on this mess?
Well, in a dark time, we all know where the light is, and I echo what Randy just said. And I'll say this: there's a specific book in the Bible, the book of Judges, that talks about the trials that Israel went through when it turned its back on God, and every time God would have to send a leader to rescue them from the terror that they had allowed themselves to get involved in. And I think that America is living that book in real time. I think that we see this through what we've allowed to infiltrate our schools, to infiltrate our media, to infiltrate our government. And a lot of times those things take very drastic moments to signal a turnaround, to wake people up. I said this earlier. I've gotten so many texts and so many people coming to my desk at work to talk about this, to ask me, hey, where can I go train? Where can I? People, this is penetrated the water table of normie norm in America. This is deeper. This is a moment, as I said earlier, this is the Archduke Ferdinand moment. What we do with that is going to decide where we end up as a nation, or possibly a land of factions, because there's one route where that could become a reality as well. I want to encourage everybody to embrace God, to find a church, live those principles that Charlie lived his life for. Return to those things. only in drastic measures, well, most of the time, and through drastic measures, do we return. And I hadn't even thought, when Mike actually pointed out that this is September 10th today, and we actually need to already have the 9/12 mentality. Remember, the 9/12, we were actually united. It was the one time in my life that I could think of that the majority of this country was united in, hey, we're all Americans. That's harder to do now because we're so divided. I've never seen it this divided. It harkens back to the 1850s, in my opinion. And but return to God, put Him first, and hold fast to your families, because none of us know when our last day is. Charlie had no idea this was his last day on this earth. And while he is in a better place, and Charlie, I hope to join you many years from now, but I will see you again, brother. But don't take for granted the moments that you have, and live a life that matters, because it does matter.
Amen to that. Well said, Jeff, and then Mike Glover for final words.
We've kind of said it all, I think, but I just want people to say a prayer for Charlie Kirk, although I don't think he needs them. I think he's already in heaven. But say a prayer for his family, because they have a shitload to go through. Losing a husband, losing a father, they're going to have a tough road to hoe. So pray for him.
Well said, Jeff. Appreciate it. Mike Glover.
Yeah, lastly, I would just say, look, if you're a man and you're a man, then you need to step up. I think about Charlie Kirk, and I think about Theodore Roosevelt's Man in the Arena. I think about the words that say the credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, and who strives valiantly. And that's Charlie Kirk's life. I mean, you could emulate that in your own life by being a leader in your family and stepping up. So many men that declare they're a man on their birth certificate tuck their sack when they're in fear, when they're in doubt, and it makes me sick, because it's like, when you know you're weak, that's the time to double down. That's actually the opportunity to double down, to gain strength, to seek God, to take care of your family, to do all the things necessary to fight. Because the reality is, we could go to war tomorrow, and what matters most is you providing protection and security and love and empathy for your family. That's how our communities are going to thrive in the event there is a catastrophe, because this is, in my opinion, just the beginning of that. And lastly, on preparedness, like I said from the very beginning, it's September 10th. And September 11th of 2001, my life as a 4-year infantryman, E5 sergeant in the Army, changed in that one moment forever. And it gave me a profound experience. But you don't have to be a Green Beret, a CIA operative, or a cool guy in order to take care of yourself and take care of your family. You just need to be willing to sack it up. And if you're not a dude and you're not a man and you're listening to this and you're a single mom, you're a mom, my mom listens to this, a lot of women are in the same position. You need to step up. And my mom did it for me when our family was broken apart. She went to work, worked 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, and she still does it today. It just takes a little bit of leadership, not in Washington, D.C., in your own home, Fort living room. That's where it counts.
I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you very much. So that's the end of our special report tonight. We're going to be back at the usual time tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. We've got a special guest, the founder and CEO of Mirror Safety, joining us. And we'll be covering the topic tomorrow night that we were going to cover tonight. So it's essentially community versus collapse in our long war series. The theme will be mutual aid, OPSEC, and neighborhood security. Basically, what happens when your neighbors go into a panic, water runs out, and the looters show up in your neighborhood. and how to build tight local teams. Other than that, quick thank you to all of our supporters. survivaldispatch.news. You can sign up for free. deaddropintel.org. You can sign up for free there as well. Thank you to Carnival, CCW Safe, and the rest of y'all. Enjoy the closing video. Hopefully we're back tomorrow night with better news than what we covered tonight. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and God bless America.
God bless America.